Hi, I'm Mer here. Today I would like to talk a bit about trans representation in movies and in series. My opinion on this has changed a bit over the years, and in 2018 I did my master thesis on this subject, on this topic. I asked trans people what they think about the trans representation in movies, and if, for example, they feel like a trans character in a movie has to be played by a real trans person or not, and why. For me, the most important thing, and I am trans if you didn't know, for me the most important thing is in any movie that a character is played realistically, that they show the person as a real person with a real life. When we're talking about a trans character, okay, the person is trans, but not the whole character needs to be about the transness of the person, you know? The trans person just has to be shown as someone who is doing very regular things like anyone, like waking up, drinking a coffee, going to school, going to work, stuff like that. And then maybe somewhere in the movie or the series, gradually it can be shown that they are trans, but it doesn't have to be a big deal. In general, what my opinion is now, it's if it's possible to have a trans character played by a trans person, a real trans person, then that's the most optimal situation. Because, and there's a few reasons for this, because trans people in general, it's really difficult for many of us to find a job, definitely for trans women, and more in particular trans women of color. And many of them are sex workers because that's what they can do, what is possible for them, and at least it pays the bills, So if you can give them a role in a movie, it can mean so much, and it can also show other trans people that maybe someday they can also do something important like that. So if you make a movie about a trans person, it can mean so much to a trans person to get this role. The second thing is that when you're trans and you play a trans character, you have this experience with you, you have lived this life, you are living this life of a trans person. So when there are scenes that are very specifically about your experience as a trans person, for example, the trans character gets an operation, shows their binder, or talks about transness, if it's a real trans person who's playing this, the person can convey the emotion maybe a little bit better than a cis person would, because they are doing it from experience. They can also tell the team if there is something that is a bit off in the scene, like if something could be shown better, or maybe, for example, a big problem in many movies and series with trans people is that it can be very medicalized. That's a very big stereotype, that everything, when you're trans, everything is about changing your body, and that's it. And for many of us, it's not even the case that we change our body in any way. So that's an important one, that a trans person would be able to say, why are we showing this, or why are we doing so many scenes about this when maybe we can do it this way. Also, for example, scenes where in the past there's been many movies where trans people are being shown as a villain or as someone to be left at, stuff like that. That's the big stereotypes. And a trans person will be more aware about what is okay to joke about and what not. So the person can help with the movie and help maybe make it a little bit better, or just give input, which is really important. Trans people, we really need our trans representation, and it means so much more to us when we see a real trans person on TV playing a trans person. It's again a new person that we can find online and look up to and relate to. If I speak from my experience, it really makes a difference when you see that someone who is trans in a show is also trans in real life, because following trans people online, it's something that really helps me to feel normal myself. If it's a cisgender person playing this role, it would still mean a lot to me if it's a nice movie, if it evokes emotion in me and I think it's very well played. It would still mean a lot to me, so I'm not saying that it's bad when it's a cisgender person who's playing a trans role, but it just means that little bit more when it's a trans person doing that. In an ideal situation, you find a trans person to play the trans role. But I know in practice it's not always easy, because I think there's not that many trans people who also like study to be an actor or like have a lot of experience in being an actor. So I can imagine that there's like a few very good ones, and that's maybe all the people who try to make movies are trying to contact those that they know. They cannot be in every movie, you know, it's not possible, there's only so much time. That's maybe a small problem in our community, that there's not that many of us. I can imagine it's maybe hard to find someone in your time frame that you want to make the movie. In that case, if it's not possible, if you try it, I would suggest that, okay, you can do it with a cisgender actor who is just a good actor, because that's the most important thing, that it's just a real movie with real emotion and that it's played very well. That's the most important thing. You don't want to revert to making a token of a trans person. You find a trans person somewhere who really isn't that skilled into being an actor, and you just say, we're going to try it with this person because this person is trans. No, that's not what I'm saying. Then it's better that you take a cis person, I guess. Just make sure that the movie is played well, you know. You want to be represented by someone who is also like a good actor, of course. But in that case, I would suggest that you at least have asked trans people suggestions, that you maybe in your team have someone who is trans or who talks in advance with some trans people what they think of a certain scene. In that way, at least there has been some input of us, and then this can also already make it way better. Yeah, ask trans people, ask a trans organization. There's so many trans organizations. What I'm trying to say is, do I think that no cis person can play trans role? No. Me personally, I think it's okay. The most important thing for me is the movie is just played by a good actor. But if it's possible, please try to make sure that you have a trans actor playing a trans role. There's so many advantages that you will see what the difference is, I guess. So yeah, that's it.
Now I am home, I can feel wind on my skin, feel true love from within, battle scar.